Veteran on the Move, episode number 5. Welcome to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you're a transitioning veteran, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone who's still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. So welcome aboard, sit back, and enjoy the ride. Carl Churchill, president, co-founder of LocknLoad Java, veteran-owned, no compromise, premium coffee. Hey, Carl, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your Army career and then how you transition out of the Army and what you're doing now.
Sure. First of all, Joe, thanks for having me on. So always great talking to another vet and another entrepreneur. So I raised my right hand as a 17-year-old private way back in 1979. And I ended up doing 9 years active duty. I earned an ROTC scholarship as an enlisted guy and went back and became an officer. Went through ROTC, became an officer, 9 years active. Lot of tactical units, everywhere from 9th Infantry Division, 3rd Infantry, 1st Armored Division. Did a short tour with Special Operations Command Europe. A lot of deployments, Central America, the Balkans, Middle East, Desert Storm veteran, and a lot of in-between stuff. I always say, one Cold War, 4 hot wars while I was in, and I ended in a lot of in between. I ended up retiring as a lieutenant colonel out of the reserves, and a few years later started LocknLoad Java with my wife, Lori, who we've been together for 27 years, married 25 of those, and we our marriage has survived 2 kids, multiple deployments, and starting a business together. So
congratulations.
Yeah. Anybody who's started a business with their spouse knows that it could put a big toll on it, but we've it's actually made ours stronger. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you guys, are you guys big coffee drinkers? How did you find your way into the Java industry?
Yes. Yeah, we are. We're both sort of coffee snobs or coffee aficionados. Lori's from the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of ground zero for coffee culture in the U.S. But
there's a real famous coffee store that's from there, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but yeah, they started up there. But what's funny is that where we really discovered and fell in love with good coffee was when we were stationed in Europe. We were stationed in Germany, and we started traveling around Europe whenever I wasn't deployed. We'd take a 4-day weekend and go someplace, and we started saying, why can't we get great coffee like this, when we're stationed other places? And so that kind of, that started our love for good coffee. And then because Lori's from the Pacific Northwest, a number of her family members got involved as quality coffee started to become more popular in the U.S. And so we had a brother-in-law who was a roaster, and we started getting into it. When we wanted to start a business back during the height of the recession, we said, let's combine 2 things we're really passionate about, which are, good coffee and giving back to the military community. So LocknLoad Java was born.
Great. How is LocknLoad Java, other than by name, how is it integrated with veterans in the military community?
Yeah, sure. We are veteran and mil-spouse owned, and that's one thing. We're committed to hiring vets and working with other vets. Our whole supply chain, every time we have the opportunity to do business with a veteran company over another company, we do that. But for the coffee itself, every bag of coffee that somebody orders sends a cup of coffee downrange to the troops. So we send quite a bit of coffee previously to Iraq, but, now primarily to Afghanistan, but also Africa and a number of other places, even out to ships that are deployed. So we send the coffee downrange. That's one aspect of us giving back. The other one is that we take $1 from every order and we donate that to military charities. So we look for well-run, high-impact military charities, giving back to the troops, the veterans, and their families. So.
Well, that's great, sending coffee forward from every sale. Having been on the receiving end of that, it greatly appreciated. I wasn't much of a coffee drinker years ago, but I think being in Iraq a couple of times, there were some guys around me that really liked good coffee. We were getting expensive coffee sent over. I want to say it was mostly Starbucks type stuff, and it was being sent over for free. People that owned individual Starbucks companies and that kind of thing, sending stuff over to us. And one guy even had a French press that he would gin up a pot of that every morning. It was like, wow, that really is good stuff. And, it's not, I guess it's not you're not the first person to discover great coffee in Europe and bring it back to the U.S. because I believe the founder of Starbucks, didn't he find the cafe and the whole concept of the first Starbucks was over when he was traveling in Europe during the summers with his family.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's sort of where it starts, is when you realize that coffee's not just a delivery means for caffeine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
sometimes it has to be. Yeah,
that's right. And that's what I always tell people is, in the military, I drank a lot of coffee and most of it was bad. So I wanted to make a difference for people. Like you said, having a great cup of coffee downrange, sharing a cup of coffee with, your buddies or, your unit, it's good things happen over coffee. We like to say, you sit together, you have a cup of coffee together, you lock and load for the mission, and you head out. And so we wanted it to be more than, just some cheap coffee. We wanted it to be something truly special. So we've gotten great feedback that way. We get a lot of pictures, a lot of thanks from guys and gals that are on the receiving end of it. But yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's great. And I love the name Lock and Load. How'd you guys come up with that? I'm sure it wasn't too difficult, but it says everything.
It's funny because one of the things, as I'm an Army veteran, but and when you're in the service, I think you and I were kind of joking about this earlier. There's a lot of inter-service rivalry, Marines and Army guys giving each other a hard time. Everybody giving the Air Force a hard time.
Oh yeah, we got to make each other stronger.
Yeah, exactly. So. But once you become a veteran, you realize that we are a very, very small minority of the country, unfortunately. I mean, not that many people have served, and even fewer have served during combat. And so there's a natural bond there between us, and you start to realize, even though there is still joking about, what branch of the military, what service you served in, there's still there's that common bond, and as a veteran, you appreciate that. I mean, I met some great guys and gals that were Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, Marines, every, and of course, other Army veterans, and so it brings you closer together. So when we were thinking of the name of for the coffee, we wanted something that was all inclusive of all the services. We didn't want it to be Army coffee or something like that. We wanted something that everybody could relate to. And so, we started thinking, hey, every time we'd roll outside the wire, it's like, hey, we ready to roll? Yeah, lock and load. So we started thinking lock and load Java. It's, you're lock and loading for the day, you're lock and loading for a project, that's just what you do. So that's how we came up with the name.
Yeah, matter of fact, that's where I came up with Veteran on the Move. Really, the same thought process. I wanted it to be generic to the military, something that civilians would also understand, but maybe not understand the underlying meaning about it. And that's where
Right.
veteran on the move, or Oscar Mike, comes from.
Yeah. It's funny because our thermal mug we call the Oscar Mike mug. And
Great.
yeah, so we have a couple of people that are like, what's the significance of Oscar Mike? And we're like, yeah, it's, Google it, you'll check it out, you'll see. It's a veteran term.
So tell us about your business model, how you're structured, and how you're bringing your product to market.
Sure. So our business plan, we thought a lot about it. We wanted to do something that we could scale, something that we could grow, something, most new businesses that start, I don't know the exact statistics, but the majority of businesses that start fail within the first 3 years.
Right.
And a lot of that is because they didn't grow fast enough, or they grew too fast. They didn't have the cash flow to sustain their business. And people who haven't started businesses don't get that. They say, how could growth, how could volume be a problem? But the reality is that if your sales are too good, but you're not able to collect your receivables from the people buying your product or your services quickly enough, then you can get into a negative cash flow situation, and that can kill you. So our business model was always to start as an online retailer, partially for that reason, because we could bootstrap it and pay as we go and as we grow, and partially because we believe that is the future. We believe that people will get to the point where they just want to go online, set up a recurring order. Dollar Shave Club is a great example of that. And we wanted to give people, veterans, military, all those who support the military, all the civilians out there that, say, thank you for your service. Here's another way for them to give back. We wanted them to be able to have great coffee no matter where they live, and just put it on a recurring order and have it sent to them. So,
can you go over some of the numbers and issues you were having when you were looking at going into regular retail stores?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we looked at regular retail, we started asking around. And by the way, anybody out there who's listening, who's thinking about a business, starting a business, some of it you just want to jump right into it, because you can certainly convince yourself there's no way to succeed. So sometimes the less you know, the better you are. But I always like to be prepared going into it. So we started asking around. We started talking to people, and we said, we talked to people that were selling through retailers, through grocery stores, and that sort of thing. And they said, listen, your margins are going to be tight. You're going to have to go through distributors, or if you're lucky, you don't go through a distributor, you go directly to the store. But then they're going to want terms of, they'll take your product in, but they're going to want anywhere from net 30 to net 90 to pay you. And when we have to buy the beans and roast them and package them and, pay for all those costs, and then have to hold that carrying cost for 30 to 90 days, that can put you out of business, because the faster you grow, the more money, you're carrying, more inventory you're having to fund until they sell it. And then a lot of them have sort of buyback provisions in the contracts as well, that if your items don't sell within a certain amount of time, then you need to buy them back from them at a predetermined price. So it's we felt like we wanted to be careful and not go that way. We wanted to, try the online retail first. And as we grew and as we felt comfortable and as we had the money and the volume to be able to step into retail, we would do that.
Yeah, the ball is definitely in their court when it comes to the retail market.
Yeah.
I know I've heard similar stories about people marketing home products or something like that to Home Depot, and it's the way they set it up is everything is in their favor. And
Absolutely.
and the onus is on you. So
Yeah.
it's good you're able to break into the market without having to deal with that.
Yeah.
Now, I listen to a lot of podcasts over the years, and one of the things I was always really interested in was the no kidding numbers. And I don't know how much you're willing to share with us as far as like revenue, like where you started on day one and where you're at now is, whatever you'd be willing to share
Sure.
with us would be really interesting and helpful to put things in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still a very small company, but we're growing rapidly, and that's a good thing. We started out about 3 years ago. We did a soft launch of our website because we were brand new to the whole online retail. So we had no commitments, no orders, nobody. We went to friends and family and said, hey, if you want to support us, order some of our coffee and just let us know, how the process works, where you get hung up, what do you think of the packaging, how long it takes to get to you, all those things. So we did a soft launch to friends and family, and we started seeing a few orders roll in. And that was May of 2011. So, those first May and June were sort of, it was fun because you'd get up and you'd say, hey, we have an order. Oh, look, it's great. There's,
Yeah.
there's my brother Kevin. He ordered some, and there's your brother Scott. There's your mom. And so we would, do that every day. One day in June, we got up and we said, well, who's that? Who is that who ordered? And it turns out that our friends and family were starting to tell people about it and saying, hey, this is great coffee. You ought to check it out. Or people would come over and have coffee with them and go, wow, this is great coffee. Where can we get this? And they'd tell them. So
what was that? What was that like that very first time that happened?
That was awesome, man. It was like, hey, we sort of looked at each other and said, we're real business now. This isn't a hobby. This is a real business now.
Legit.
Yeah, we're legit. Exactly. And so
recently I've had similar experience. You get just a little bit of success and it's like such a euphoria.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know if you're the same as me, but I'd like to say I've done a lot of stuff that sounds pretty cool. My 22 some years in the Marine Corps and all the flying and everything.
Yeah.
But I have to admit that first little touch of entrepreneurial success has got to be one of the best feelings.
It is. It's a great feeling. It's, I've had the similar experiences, when you talk to people about your military career, they're like, wow, you've done more in your lifetime than, people sort of get jealous of the experiences that you've had. But being an entrepreneur is addicting. It's a very tough road, and, success doesn't come easy. It takes discipline, hard work, a willingness to, keep going no matter what the odds. That's why I think veterans are uniquely suited to it. But it is every once in a while, two things that keep you going. Well, there's a number of things that keep you going, but two are, when you have a little success like that, a new customer or a big order or a mention in a magazine or online or, something like that, those kinds of successes, or you reach milestones and thresholds, those keep you going. The other thing is just talking to other entrepreneurs, especially veteran entrepreneurs, and you realize, hey, there's other people laying awake at night staring at the ceiling saying, how are we going to make payroll tomorrow? How are we going to, how much longer can I keep that one supplier at bay, before I pay them, because we're expecting a big influx here or whatever. And, you just keep going, you keep working hard, and you realize that that's the experience that everybody has. It's the unusual business that just builds it. They come and, 5 years later you cash out, for huge amounts of money. I wish it was that easy. It's not. It's a lot of hard work and effort, but we've seen that happen. And we've seen the growth, and we're hitting that 3-year mark, and we're stronger than ever, continuing to grow and getting great feedback. That's the other thing is social media gives you great feedback from your customers. So.
Yeah. And have you often tweaked your plan or tweaked things about your business because of the input of your customers?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we're doing right now is we're trying to raise enough funds to launch K-Cups, because K-Cups have become a big force in the coffee, the home coffee drinking industry.
Oh, those are things that go in the Keurigs?
Yeah, exactly. The
Okay.
Keurig pods. Now we offer a reusable one that you can put, we offer a special grind for those.
Yeah, because I have one of those little mesh things
Exactly.
for my Keurig, and I just use regular cheapo coffee in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry,
well,
no
we got
offense,
to get
but
you drinking LocknLoad Java.
no offense. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because those K cups are they're very handy, but they're also, I mean, it's obviously more expensive doing it that way when you can just dish it in there yourself. But I can understand why people prefer it. It's clean
people
and
like
neat.
the convenience of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we're looking to launch that. It's hard when you're a smaller company. If you are Starbucks, no big deal. It's just, hey, we'll roll these out, and we'll roll them out in every blend and flavor of coffee that we have. For us, we have to strategically pick out which ones we want to roll out, and then we have minimum runs for those. And you want the coffee to be fresh and good and turn it quickly. And so we're trying to keep all those things in balance as we roll those out. But we've tweaked a lot of things. That's one thing. We offer cocoa. Kind of a funny story. It was we had just been in business for a few months, and we were getting some good traction, but still, we weren't at the volume that I wanted us to be at. I felt like we had to do something big to get our name out. And so we contacted the Armed Forces Bowl and became one of their smaller sponsors for that event. And we inked the deal. We invested a lot of our, a big chunk of our savings in getting that going, but we felt like, hey, this will be a great thing. And part of the deal was we could sell coffee at the event. It was in late December down in Dallas. And so we did everything we needed to do. We got a booth, we got everything set up. And then they announced who was playing in that bowl. And one of the teams was BYU, which we're a Utah-based company. And we knew that BYU, being an LDS university, most of their fans were not going to be coffee drinkers because they don't drink coffee. So
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so we were sitting there going, "Oh crap, what do we do now?" So we quickly sourced some Ghanaian hot cocoa, and we created 2 hot cocoa blends or 2 hot cocoa offerings, and we rolled that out for we literally had our packagers send them to the hotel down in Dallas. So we had like, I think 12 cases of that show up in at the hotel we were staying at, and took that to the game, and we're able to sell some of that to the fans, and now we have a lot of people who order our coffee, and every third or fourth order they'll order some cocoa as well. So that was that was a tweak that came about out of necessity, and it's actually been a great addition to what we do.
Yeah, excuse me. What a great pivot, which ended up working out the better for you.
Yeah.
So I think we got excitedly distracted there, like entrepreneurs do. You were working on talking some revenue numbers without revealing too many of your secrets.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So that first year, from June to December, we only did 18,000 in revenues, and about 9,000 of that came in the last 2 months of that year. So, we were $100 a month. I mean, a few $100 a month the first few months. We got up to a few $1,000s a month the last 2 months. And then in the second year, we bumped up to, we went over 100,000. We did 100 and I think 116,000 in revenues, if I remember correctly. Um, and we were pretty excited about that growth.
Oh yeah.
That was a real nice jump for us. Word was starting to spread. Everybody was telling their friends. We were working social media quite a bit. And then this last year, but the unfortunate thing that happened is even at 100 and 100+ thousand in revenues, you have to realize that you're not making enough money really to, especially if you're putting money back into growing the company. We hadn't paid ourselves yet, so my wife and I weren't paying ourselves. And we, so I basically looked at her and said, I got to get a daytime job, or the runway is longer than we thought it was going to be before we get lift here. And so
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always is. I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, always double your estimates in terms of time it's going to take, and have your, the spreadsheet of how many sales you're going to have, because it takes longer, and it's a lot harder. So I jumped into a full-time job, to help continue to fund the growth of the company. And, we hired a couple of people to work part-time to help us with everything. And we started outsourcing some of the things that we were doing before, like our accounting and some of our marketing and that sort of thing. So we only grew by about 25% in our third year, because I wasn't putting my full effort into it with my wife, and we were trying to figure out where to invest the money for the most growth. And that was and so what we've come down to is, we really want to build this recurring order module and get the K cups out there, and we're starting to do small retail, where we're offering. Basically, we call it 20 for 20. If you order 20 bags of coffee, we'll give a 20% discount. And so small gun shops, small tactical shops, bed and breakfasts, tactical training organizations. A lot of those folks are starting to order our coffee and, just either serve it at their events or, and sell it there as well. So that we're seeing some good growth there, and we're expecting, this year our projections are to go over 200,000 in revenues, and it looks like we're tracking towards that. So.
All right. Well, that's great. You mentioned that you hire a lot of veterans, and throughout your chain, you have a lot of veterans working for you and working with you. Are you in the business of hiring folks right now, or looking for partners or people to open up stores? And if so, if there's any veterans out there that are listening that would like to contact you, how would they go about doing so?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always want to work with other veteran companies and with suppliers and that sort of thing. We're not right now. We're not looking to hire additional people to work for us. But I'll give you an example. We just signed on a military spouse owned creative agency that we've got on retainer, that are helping us with packaging, with some of our social media stuff, with design of logos and that sort of thing, with our marketing plan of how we're going to roll that out. So we always love to find groups like that are veteran owned that we can do stuff with. So that would be we'd love to hear from anybody that way. And as we grow, we reach out into the veteran community. If there are people, we are located in Salt Lake City, but one of the things we would love to do is partner with military or veteran-owned coffee shops around the country and let them serve our coffee. I mean, that would be a great way to work together and grow together and leverage each other for mutual benefit. So we're open to that. People can shoot me an email at Carl C. That's CARLC at LocknLoadJava.com, and I'm happy to talk to them and figure out if we're together or if I can help them in any way. I'm a firm believer in just helping out other people and paying it forward.
All right, Carl. Well, thanks for sharing your entrepreneurial story and talking about your transition out of the Army. It's great to see that you and your wife are doing great. And are you still working the full-time job now?
I am, but it's I basically have two full-time jobs. So I come home, put on a pot of coffee, and have dinner, and then it's 6 to midnight shift, and weekends. It's that's the life of an entrepreneur. But luckily we've got about 1,000 pounds of coffee at any given time that we can dip into for keeping us going.
All right. Well, thanks for telling us your story. Thank you for your service. And maybe here's 6 months or a year or so when you guys hit that exponential climb, we'll have you back on the show if
Absolutely.
You're still willing to share the story with us, which I'm sure you will be. But
I'd
love to hear the before and after. You're 3 years into it. You're about to hit that. I have the feeling you're about to hit that.
That hockey stick where you just go up. Yeah, we feel the same way. We met with the guy who started GoPro, and he was saying, hi, I'm the founder of GoPro. We're an 11-year overnight success story. That was a couple of years ago. And I just saw that they just went public. They did an IPO, and I was thinking back to that, and I was thinking, that's what he said was the first few years we didn't know if we were going to keep going, and then all of a sudden it just took off. So,
all right, Carl. Well, thanks again, and
you bet, Joe.
Hope to be talking to you here in the near future.
Sounds great, brother.
All right, I'm out. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.